Okay. Because when you're talking about lightweight, I think that's the probably $1 trillion solution, right? But have you seen something that works well? Because when I think about the review cycle, you have to first collect peer reviews, then you have to do a self review, then you have to do a manager review, then the manager has to review you, then you have to calibrate. Then after calibration, you have compensation probably with it and all the steps that come with that. And then you finally have the conversation 3, 4 months after you started. How do you make this lighter? Because obviously you need to give people the time to do all this, but would I eliminate any of these steps? Or what have you seen that the future of performance management? Is there a way to make this better, faster, lighter? Because I've been trying to think through this forever and I don't know how you do it.
Sure. So, I mean, this is definitely an area where I think that AI is going to have a huge impact, right? Because, gathering more comprehensive data and then disseminating that data in a way that provides insights for the organization in terms of how people are performing differently, how to optimize performance in the organization, how to then promote people who are performing at their best, or even understanding the difference between technical skills or technical contribution and then people managing contribution. Because a lot of companies are making errors in terms of promoting people based on technical skills when really they need to be promoting them on people managing skills. And so the extent to which you can gather data passively without going through the data gathering aspect of the performance review process, the more that you can have this process take place throughout the year or in real time, and then you make decisions based on entire body of work of an individual or a team rather than the typical biases, which is that recent behaviors have a lot more impact on a person's performance review than behaviors from several months before. Another thing is that too often the review cycles are putting such an emphasis on past behaviors and past performance rather than future behaviors and the role that all of this feedback can play in terms of developing that individual's capabilities. Most people just get maybe one-on-one debrief after the review cycle with their manager, and the assumption is that that person now knows all the things that they need to work on without it being really embedded in their work going forward. And so if you can capture data points throughout the year, or in an ongoing or real-time basis, performance review cycles end up becoming a very antiquated process that will be replaced by ongoing continuous data gathering.
Once again, like this has been amazing because my brain is thinking of instead of doing the traditional review cycle, it's can I have something that sends a quick message to the manager saying, how did Michelle do this week? What's the one thing they did well? Rate them on a scale of 1 to 5. And then every week you get something. When it's time to review them, it's like you push the button, it automatically collates all of the stuff that you've talked about for that quarter or that month. But you can get more insights a lot faster. So this is gonna be interesting. You're right. AI is going to make this hopefully better. I know there's probably a lot of people building something, but this is going to be amazing to see if we can really actually then apply it to how we
Yeah, and it's
actually work.
there are a lot of people who are really resistant to AI and the role that AI will play in our work. And if you look back historically, at what point was there technology that was developed that wasn't somehow eventually incorporated into everything that we do that people previously had resisted? And, AI, like none of us has the capacity to resist AI's influx into our work. And so if we can be champions of it, and not just for an organization, but for how we incorporate it into our work, that's going to make each of us into better contributors for an organization using as many of those tools as possible to maximize our performance and maximize our output.
Let's just move to the next segment, which is called the playbook and winning in the AI driven workplace. That's the perfect segue. Put your crystal ball on or whatever, crystal hat or whatever. Yeah, pull out your crystal ball and think about the next 5 years. Where do you think the biggest shift will happen when it's HR and AI in the next 5 years and how this all plays in?
Sure. So definitely in terms of how we capture and disseminate and use data within the people function and within learning and development. The other is it's just going to be increasingly essential for every employee to put use of AI at front and center in terms of how they do their work. And that will require them to continuously learn and develop their capabilities in terms of integrating AI tools into their workflow. And so having an openness to continuously invest in learning and in incorporating AI and other technologies into our day-to-day work is going to be what defines our individual success in our roles.
So to that point, some of the day-to-day work, hiring, development, we can use it to hire faster, develop better, faster insights. Using AI though also could create further bias and other risks. So is there a way that companies should be thinking about using AI the right way as they're, building out their framework for what AI looks like at the company?
Yeah, so it's really thinking about inclusivity in terms of how AI gets implemented within an organization, but also how you're developing people to use it, incorporate it into their work is very important. And ensuring that there are adequate mechanisms to essentially audit how AI tools are being used and ensure that there is equity both in terms of their deployment so that everybody in a specific role or across an organization has access to those tools, because access to those tools is going to determine whether one person does X performance versus one of their peers who's not using those tools. And then also thinking about what are the implications of AI's use in terms of personalization of learning and development will also have an impact on whether one person is perceived as successful in their role and another is not. So personalizing to the extent that it up levels everybody versus focusing on this person developing certain skills and another developing others that don't necessarily align with the requirements of the role.
And that's interesting you said that because I never even thought about like the demystifying, but also I was going to say what democratization of AI, but basically making sure everybody has access to it because I have my own subscription to ChatGPT and I've had it now for a year, regardless of what companies are doing. And so companies need to make sure that everybody has access to that because it does set people apart. So that's a really good call out.
Yeah, and like one of the exciting aspects of AI and especially its impact on learning and development is actually scaling learning and development offerings for a company so that they can be provided comprehensively across an entire demographic within a company. Rather than having to focus on providing it to those people who speak up the most or the ones who demand it.
Right.
And that too is around creating equity and inclusivity in terms of offering learning and development to as many people as possible in a company, or for that matter, to everyone.